Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. And in next 20 minutes, we are going to talk about how to change the future of business, how we do through the autonomous enterprise operations. The way we have structured the discussion for next 20 minutes is then Todd will come and talk about as a partnership what we are doing together with AWS. Just before we start the presentation, I want to thank one of my customers, here from Kenvue. He's a vice president from Kenvue, and they are a user of Ignio. Thank you very much for being our customer. Praveen has been a great help, and any one of you who wants to discuss with him post the event, he would be happy to spend some time. This morning, today also, we announced a partnership with Control-M, which is the first inaugural launch along with AWS on their marketplace as a multi-product SaaS, which we launched today. Go and check it out. But coming to this presentation, we'll just talk about 3 stories, what we are doing. That will give you a sense of how the customers are using those. And then we'll tell you what the product is about, then we'll solve the story and then hand it over to Todd. So this is I'm sure somebody can recognize, it's a premium retail company, Tapestry. The bags, which some of you might have seen, used it. They had an issue where some of the orders are not reaching on time, not being processed, not being fulfilled, not delivered on time. It's a loss of revenue, loss of experience. Another example we'll talk about is this company which is in the medtech space. They manufacture prosthetic limbs, and if those limbs, the commit date to the surgery room in the hospital is not confirmed, the surgery may not happen and the patient may not get their limbs. And the third example is, let's say in Bangalore, there's a cricket match going on, a T20 cricket match. And a lot of the retailers nearby are stocking so that they feel that they will have a lot of sales going on, and that sales, the stock is not fulfilled because there is some certain glitch because the intended CPG company is not able to fulfill those because of certain order processing issues. In all these 3 examples, there is something common as a business problem. Underneath, somewhere, the IT did not perform the way it was designed to perform. And that's the challenge we all know across when the business calls you that, look, something did not work. My order did not get processed, and you see an IT problem has happened. So majority of the business problem today, what you see, is a technology issue. And that's what we are trying to solve and make it autonomous in the industry. If you look at the example of Tapestry, which I talked about, their challenge was they have 37 different storefronts. They operate globally. Orders comes through those storefronts. They have a order management system. They have a fulfillment process. They have a financial transaction to close, and then the shipping happens. And in the whole journey, if you look at, there are different hops where the data flow through different systems and as a technology layer, and within some of the application itself, for example, SAP systems and other systems. And in that journey of the data flow, we have deployed the unified observability to ensure that at every hop, the business knows exactly how the order is processing. And if something goes wrong at the layer of technology, the technology team also knows which component of technology has failed or not performed to the expectation, and that's why that problem has been creeped in. And in all this area, if you see, this problem has resulted, and we have some data which I'll share to you this morning, which came from the last week itself, because last week was a very heightened activity because of Black Friday sales and what was going on everywhere in the world. In last 1 week, they have processed more than 1 million orders. And if Ignio was not there, almost worth $3 million worth of their orders either would not have been processed, they might have been delayed, or they might have been cancelled by the consumers because they might not have met the promised date. So that's the value what we are bringing in this situation, where we are bringing the unified observability across the process flow from order to cash and underlying technology vertically from the tech perspective to ensure the operational autonomy is involved and delivered to them every day, every time order comes through. The second example, which I talked about, the challenge was this company grew through acquisition several years. It's a long-standing brand. They build, as I said, prosthetic limbs. they're across the supply chain and demand planning specifically. They have to confirm a promise date for a specific limb to a patient and to the surgeon. And if you look at that area, it's very humble to speak about that, because you need 4 things. You need a doctor, you need a hospital, you need a patient, and you need the limb. All 3 are available, the limb is not available. The promise date is not there. That's the challenge that customer had, where this order flow of data was happening through. There were 70 different interfaces because they have grown through acquisition, different applications, different kinds, SaaS, on-premise, antiquated, legacy application, all running through those systems. That's what we have solved for them, where the data flow happens. The demand planning process for them has been reduced from weeks to now hours, and they're able to promise the date to the hospitals so that the surgery can happen. And that's what is a big help, not only to my customer here, but it's also to the end user, because that's very important for their life. The third example I talked about, it's an example where some of you who work in the retail or CPG industry, the direct store delivery is a very, very critical process for some of the CPG companies. And in that process, typically a route sales would go, take the order, see the stock on the shelf, understand what is required, how it's selling, punch in some orders there. That order flows through different systems, comes to the CPG company, to their manufacturing units, and shipped through the truck, goes, and it directly stock on the shelf. That is a very high frequency process, where if you miss or order is not delivered, as simple as a manifest has not been generated, and your truck may not fill the full orders and move. You have lost 2 parts in that process. First of all, the shelf is empty for the retailer. The retailer has not only lost the revenue and the CPG company associated revenue, but you also lose the brand and the market share. And it's a very, very competitive market. So on that journey, on the business value, what we're monitoring, what we call it, on the whole journey of right from the order taker to the manufacturing plant, to the shipping, fulfillment, and the restocking. The whole journey we have mapped on Ignio, which is the platform from Digitate, to ensure on a weekly basis we process a couple of $100 million of orders on this platform to ensure it moves autonomously in the journey. Now these 3 stories are from different kind I talked about. It matters as a business. Underneath all this real life solution is the technology which is the problem. And I'll come to the next part, how we are solving this problem today. So as I said, autonomous is the new operating model, how we are delivering that value. And I'm sure some of you who comes from the IT background, you all want to eliminate business disruption which happens because of IT. A lot of business folks call you and say, look, I gave you all the tools, why this happened again? The second part you want to still do, if we can't fix those problems proactively, that I should know first as an IT before business partner knows. And I can tell them in advance that I know it, we are fixing it. If you can't do that, the last and the least part you can do is, if I know somebody called me, a problem has been there, can I recover as fast as possible that the problem feels like a blip? And to achieve these 3 elements in the order of priority, we have built a platform called Ignio, which has 3 broad things. One is the unified observability, which I talked about, from the horizontal observability to understand the layer of data processing which happens through different applications, and the underlying vertical stack observability to understand how the problem occurs and proactively create a visibility and avoid those problems from happening at the first place. We also hook up on the second part, which we talked about, the AI-driven insight. We hook up with a lot of telemetry data, which log data and other elements which comes from the environment through your monitoring tools to understand what can happen, and we can predict what's going to fail. For example, this application, the way the usage is increasing, 6 weeks from now, the performance of this service is going to degrade. It gives you some latitude to understand what's going on. A batch job cycle, it can tell you 3 a.m. in the morning and say, look, by 6 a.m. your sales reconciliation report is not going to come, you will miss that KPI. That's what this AI-driven insight gives you the time so that you can recover from those situations before the problem has already hit you. And the third part is, problem will do occur, we recognize, and that's where the closed loop automation comes, where a problem has resurfaced, Ignio understands the context, it understands the whole hierarchical model of your enterprise as IT blueprint, and it can recover and isolate the problem at a machine speed, which typically today, lot of environment today, all the enterprise customers, they put teams which are siloed in nature, they come together. Typically, first time they will say the network guys, they are the fault. Eventually, they come down to some database guy and say, look, the long-running query is the problem, they fix it. It takes maybe an hour to 2 hours to 4 hours. That's where it runs at a machine speed, isolate the problem, and then we have built almost 10,000 automated actions to take action to fix this problem within minutes. So that situation, which takes maybe an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours to fix, can be solved in a couple of minutes, maybe sometimes 3 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. All these 3 elements of the capability, what we have built on this platform, is applied to your cloud operations, your typical data center, if you have a data center in your environment, custom application, SAP systems, batch jobs, and end user devices like laptops and desktops. And that pretty much covers your 80 to 90% of operations. And that's what our vision has been, to go behind this and make all the journey autonomous so that the business can perform the way it's supposed to perform. And to deliver all this, what we have is this 5 agents. The whole architecture is agentic. If you look at some of the personas which we deal in the enterprise today, the SREs persona, the CXO personas, a lot of cloud operation which goes on, a lot of IT operations team handles, and their objectives, which I've touched about, is very clear: move as fast as you could, avoid, eliminate the incidents. And these 5 agents works in a very simple principle that they can work on their own. And these agents are made through 6 sub-agents. These all agents are through a perception agent, a reasoning agent, an action agent, and a learning agent. And we also have built a control agent and an LLM-based model agent so that it augment some of the teams, because maybe Ignio does not have the full knowledge, 100% knowledge of everything goes into the enterprise. So what we have built here from the agentic platform perspective, not only a deterministic model where it can go and fix certain problems from the logical reasoning perspective, but it can also take something analytical model through your LLMs. We use one of the other platform from an LLM today, and that we can bring it together from the logical analogical model to fix the problems what goes on in your enterprise. So on that note, just to give you some data points today, we are very focused on the global 2000 customer. We believe enterprise is the segment where we thrive well. The impact of the value of this platform is much higher. The value what they derive is much bigger. We are almost managing 34,000 Kubernetes workload globally in 20 different regions. We process almost 1.2 billion events on this platform with almost 87% noise reduction. Just imagine the help it gives to the command center team everywhere. We almost have 300 million plus automation, which is working today on the platform every year. And of course, we are compliant to certain standards, global standards, which any enterprise needed today, SOC 2, Type 2, and others. And of course, on that journey, AWS has been a great partner. As I talked about, we have launched today morning with BMC Control M. But I'll ask Todd to talk about some of the partnership, what we have gone through in last several years.
Sure, thanks Rajiv, great stuff. So good afternoon, my name is Todd Carey. I lead our GSP sales teams worldwide. And really, that's 2 main areas, is looking at our biggest partners and strategic partners as customers, and then also as investors and sellers, and how we go to market together. And that really is responding to a lot of the market signals, the things that we see, things that customers demand. So it's amazing to hook up with partners like Digitate, where they're looking at things, they're building things, but most importantly, they're delivering things. And when we do delivering things like outcomes, when we start talking about on-time deliveries, weeks to hours, full trucks, these are use cases that end customers really want to hear about. And in fact, just as important as our field sales teams want to hear about. So when you're an end customer, or you're an AWS, or you're another partner, what good looks like definitely is Digitate. And these are the partners that we really lean in with and support from a go-to-market standpoint, from a solution building standpoint, and we figure out how we can scale together. So it's a great success story. And Digitate and Ignio leveraging the marketplace, BMC leveraging AWS Marketplace. This is really the next generation of sales platform. So if anyone got to hear Matt Yinchenshin's keynote on Marketplace and all of the new announcements that we're making, from a next generation sales and a next generation experience and engagement, you take an Ignio, you take a Digitate, and an AWS, and it's an extremely powerful combination at delivering value on time, and most importantly, delivering outcomes. So when we look at the type of partner that we want to look for, we want to invest in, Digitate certainly represents that. And so we're always exploring how we unlock value, how we accelerate time to value, and we accelerate time to market. And as a complete package of partnership and relationship, super excited to be supportive of Digitate and all that they're doing in the market. So just as a quick say hi and a huge endorsement of all the things that we're doing with Digitate. So very excited, and I think we're going to open up to some Q&A, right?
Sure. If you have a question, we can answer.
There's some questions. Happy to field all of those. Was it that thorough? Rajiv, good stuff. Be able to deliver that with no questions.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think
thank you very much.
I think that's a wrap. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.